الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار.
Good. So you've made it just in time. Kashif and I were just, doing some ad lib. We were just talking a little bit about our past episodes covering the back to school series. So thank you so very much for making the time. We do understand you're just literally rushing from a class yourself. So let us now begin the official broadcast. The focus being for this episode, maintaining a Muslim identity in school-going children. So Imam Slimi, you have a very, very kind of storied legacy for the Imam landscape here in throughout the Greater Toronto Area and Canada, for that matter. You're the Imam of the Sayeda Khadija Center in Mississauga. You've been featured on a list of 500 of the most influential Muslims in the world. You hold a PhD in Islamic law out of the UK. You're a professor at the Canadian Center of Deen Studies. And I'll just get this checked by producer Kashif. You were also at the Senate hearing this past Thursday on Islamophobia. So clearly, you are doing everything you can, or what you can, in the path of Deen and representing Muslims. So give us a little bit more about that. And I think that's a good launching point, because a lot of our youngsters, a lot of the youth, I, for one, growing up in Mississauga in the 1980s, there were very few Muslims. But now it's completely changed. You go to places like Mississauga, Brampton, Markham, for that matter. There are so many Muslims in public school, high school, elementary, secondary. What can our youth do to understand Islamophobia and how to counter that Islamophobia as a student? Students face it. So what can they do, Imam Slimi?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salamu ala Rasulillah. Thank you, brother, for and your esteemed Jama'ah and guests. This is a very not turned down your invitation, although I know it's a busy day, Sunday classes, so I apologize for coming a little bit late. Yes, I was there on Saturday for the Senate hearing to speak about the consequences, the heavy consequences, and the impact on our Muslim individuals and Jama'at, congregation, and also I gave some recommendations. Maybe in another time we could publish another article on the issue, which I usually do. Whatever I speak about, let the community know. I did write a few articles on Islamophobia. Very clear that where, as you said, things have changed. Islamophobia has always existed, but now it has reached children. And what it is the removal of hijab of young girls. And actually, I was doing Saturday, not yesterday, the previous Saturday, with the Indonesian, and one of the girls actually did mention that somebody in Brampton removed her hijab, and that student was from a minority as well. So we did hate. I call it imported hate that is coming from countries that are hostile, and they have a hostile policy against Muslims, and they bring that, which unfortunately they manifest it in acts of hatred, remove bad language. My brother, it's a relationship, undoubtedly, and I always say it, parenting now is more difficult than any time before in human history. I'm parenting. The task of parenting has never built, more than our time. And mentioned, but more importantly, we are fought. Our children are attacked in their very core beliefs. They are, in the name of freedom of speech, in the name of the rights, they on them, including the sex education, and all of this. Part of what we are as Muslims, doesn't matter where we come from, we try to instill in our children the haya, which, that, by the way, does not even, if you try, there's no such thing, haya. But then when they go to, for them, they see the world. Home is home, yes, it's sacred, but the world. So then they're encouraged to discover the world and choose for them. We know that the child needs his parents to help him with choice. In the name of choose what you want, in the name of freedom of choice, they are empowered. Do they have the ability to choose? That's what Muslim parents are saying. Is not able to choose for himself or herself. Between them, we're still growing them up to the point that, inshallah, they'll be able to choose for them. Choice is very dangerous, and as a matter of fact, early choices in life, especially, very, very important in your personality and all of that, and we will discuss a little bit personality, are very important to be kept intact during childhood. Grows like the fruit, need to be taken care of in the tree until the fruit. The concept of Islam, you need to look after it, and that's the job of the parents. It's a collective work. The village back then used to be the village raising children to raise. They want to impose on things and disrupt the process, which unfortunately causing a lot of problems for our children.
So, Imam Slimi, in terms of what we can do to first and foremost educate our students and educate our parents, what I'm going to borrow from a past guest, the term agency, that is power and responsibility. So what power do Muslim parents and do Muslim students have in terms of their own rights? It's a slippery slope, isn't it? That in the name of freedom of speech, that it's still shocking and hurtful to me that a young Muslimah who has decided to wear the hijab, that her hijab is pulled off in Brampton, no less, which is a very, very, accepting, it's a very multicultural community. There will always be bad apples and bad actors in the bunch. It is definitely the act of a single person. It is by no means a pronouncement against any one community. But that being said, it still hurts to hear stories of this nature in 2022, no less. One would hope that there is a stronger understanding and acceptance and integration of our faith. So what can parents do? What can students do in terms of protecting their own rights?
First and foremost, to know the rights of our children. And one of the rights of our children is to principles. Now, we educate them about the faith and see us as role models. If we live the principles of the faith, um, uh, inshallah, good outcome. Because not only is guaranteed, yeah, somebody needs to be muted, I guess. So not only is guaranteed by the Holy Quran and the teachings of Prophet ﷺ, but by experience. Raise your children on principles, most likely they'll be somehow influences, and they will be like vaccinated against kind of ill thinking. And that's the power we should acknowledge, that experience based on our own experience. When a child with faith, that's number one, and empowered with the principles of the religion and the continuous follow-up, because influences, parents need to check on their children, follow up, discuss issues, become huge problems, tackle issue after issue. This is, and I said it in the beginning, parenting is not going to be easy. You're feeling nice, but they are a liability. And I'm not talking about the liability in the hair. That's something we all know. I'm talking about liability for you. You are a person they need to know, they can trust, that you are a person that would do anything. You are a person that loves them and seeks the best interest for them. You know that for sure. It become a conviction. Nobody can take it out of them. Repeat again. Once a child knows that his parents' interest, they love him, you know, and then they can, anytime, then he or she, that child will, but the follow-up has to be there all the time. Check in on them. This, let's be more explicit. Children go to school to their friends. Friends do influence friends. Parents with new ideas that could be moral, and also the idea of belief. A lot of children, I'm sure you, Sheikh, and other imams at your center, you are every day parents coming with their children who are questioning the faith, because this is now not anymore a high school and university. It's happening in middle school, and even listening to their friends. We are really in a deep sleep, and thank you for your organization for doing this parenting. It's like, remember, I wanted to do this parenting workshop, and then based on your parenting series recently as well, using some of your speakers, and I say we have to do this in every masjid in Canada. It's a must. It's not a matter. In my opinion, is as Jumu'ah Salat. And even Jumu'ah Salat topic should be given on helping parents with their children. So, question of yours is extremely important. It requires hours to answer in a brief manner. I believe in these three powerful things. If a child has his parents, and trust is built, is lived and built, knows he can go back to his parents. If a child is convinced that love him would do anything for him or her. If a child very well and convinced that the parents seek the, and this is the challenging one in my opinion, then there is no point, away. However, these three are good. Continuous follow. Why do I have to go through this? Well, this is our reality in the first century. It's a battle of when either shaitan, as Allah says in the Quran, قُوا يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لِيكُمْ نَارًا وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ. O you who believe, it's not Muslims in the time of Prophet Muhammad in Medina. He's talking to me and you, Quran, until the end of times. Quran tells us, oh, you who believe, care more about faith values. Oh, you who believe in the Quran and the Sunnah of Prophet. Oh, you the Muslim Ummah who cares about God, what God says. Oh, you who care about haya, care about respect, tawqir, ijlal, all these values of veneration and including respecting the teacher and the school. Oh, you who care about this, protect yourself as parents and protect your children from fire. Ibn Abbas explained it very well, and Sayyidina Ali, both of them, may Allah and be pleased with them, both of them said, the fire is, and fire in akhirah, may Allah protect us. The fire of dunya, as the pain the parents go through, like Allah gave us a beautiful huh?
Right.
And Allah said, two parents who son, huh? They will say, please, come on, you're old fashioned, you're old school. I have friends. Yes. You promised me things, brother. They are saying, well, if we're gonna come, what makes me has become common lately? What guarantees for me that the Quran? They're doubting the Quran. And why are they doubting? Because they tell them, oh, the Quran restricts your freedom. Oh, the Quran restricts you to choose for yourself. Why can't we just have fun? Why? But innocent love. Why? Love is beautiful. And they don't understand what you're feeling. They play on people's, emotions. Doesn't need to go through these things. Child needs to grow. Early harvest never ends up good. Never gives you what you want. And the answer to your question in a very honestly concise manner. But go ahead.
So Imam Slimi, thank you for that very thorough answer, touching upon so many different points. Yes, I agree with you completely. It is most definitely a challenge nowadays to be a parent and to be an involved parent, and even more so for the children to understand the power of our deen, the power of our faith, that yes, there are, to use the term, guardrails, there are guidelines, but the Quran and the Sunnah are basically the guidelines for everyday life. And within that, if you submit to the faith, then there is khair, there is barakat, there is goodness in doing so. So I can only pray and hope that many of our youth understand that imams like Dr. Imam Hamid Slimi are there for a reason, to help educate us on the deen, to maybe take away any misunderstandings or misconceptions or fears that our youth or even parents might have towards the deen. These have been ongoing issues, even back to the time of the Sahaba. Would you not agree, Imam Slimi, that there is a very, I recently came across this hadith of the time during the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, about he was with his companions, and the companions said, "O Prophet, when we are with you, our deen is at its highest, it's at its peak, it's at its strongest. But when we are away from you, it's like the waves and crests of the ocean, of the shore, that it dips and it wanes, and we just don't feel the strength of our iman anymore. So is there something wrong with us?" And to summarize, and you probably can explain better, but the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that this is the very nature of faith, this is the very nature of deen, that it comes and goes, and it's a work in progress, right? So I think the whole point of this podcast, and inshallah, yes, most definitely, if you are available late October, we will follow up with you. We are looking at doing a conference. Most definitely, we need you to be there to provide, to be a speaker for our family workshop. But how can we help our youth? How can we help parents strengthen their faith? Because there are always questions. Even during the time of the Prophet Muhammad, there was these types of questions. Our faith comes and goes, it dips, it wanes. This is nothing new. This is nothing new.
Yeah, well, you said it right. Environment. Yes, that's hadith of Handala and Abu Bakr, who questioned themselves, and they said, when we are with the Prophet ﷺ, we feel, when we are in the market, we want also money, we have aspirations, and they said, لَقَدْ نَافَقَ Handala. Handala is maybe Siddiq, and we all know who Abu Bakr is. Says, maybe I'm also a hypocrite. You're right. Hypocrite is a person who has change of heart quickly. So they went to the Prophet. Says, he says, if you were to be, لو كنتم هناك كما كنتم عندي لصافحتكم الملائكة. If you side the same way when you are with me, the angel, you'll start shaking hands with angels. But you have moments of heights and moments of life, and in a heights, moments of heights, we're fully conscious of Allah, alhamdulillah. And in the context of parenting, you're in Ramadan, you're in the halaqah, you're in the masjid, iman is high. Very often in the last 10, I always have this group of youth, and even those who don't come for it, oh, they want to do this, how can we start halaqah, how can I become hafid, I want to memorize hadith, people born in Canada, I want to do this. I say yes, but it's just because it's in the height. Once we are outside Ramadan, you won't even come to the weekly halaqah, I know that. So it's just second day after Ramadan, Eid, third day, fourth day, then 1 week, 2 weeks. Then in Ramadan, you see, I told you you're not gonna come. Oh yeah, but we're gonna try this time. Because the mind, the state of mind at the moment of iman opens up your eyes tight. When you are fasting, you can't wait to eat and break your fast. But the appetite is gone. Similarly, you are in dunya and the appetite for food is not there. You have appetite for something else. And this is the reality. Even as something called bar that is high, and also the minimum. I don't like to use the word minimalist. If we can just focus on 5% or less is in the masjid or is it salat. If you take, this is how I put it to the youth. This is how much time you're going to spend for salat in your life. You do salat 5 minutes average. The longest if you want, but let's say you pray 30 minutes. That's maximum. If you go maximum, some people just say for a young guy fast and this, an average of 30 minutes. When will you go time? You go for 1 month or 2 weeks, 3 weeks. If you take that, spread it over and the month of Ramadan. Spread how many hours? 24 hours times 30. All of that, we made the calculation. It was less than 4% of your time you're going to. The rest of Islam, the 96 or 95% of Islam in your character. And thank you for mentioning personality. And I really, when you say personality, not too much focus on identity. Important. Islamic identity is important. But if there is no Islamic personality, no identity will benefit you. I'll be very clear. Sometimes parents want the Islamic, so put the hat, put the long gown, and go to school, so you are a Muslim. But if we don't equip the child with the personality, that identity will serve nothing. As a matter of fact, you have people complaining about Muslims who look Muslim, they don't line up, they are mean, they swear, they steal, they this, you know. Yes, she needs to know this is not about identity. This is about her hijab outside reflects the iman inside.
Mm-hmm.
It should not be I'm a Muslim, but you need to behave like a Muslim. You need to behave like a Muslim. That's the reason why we wear this, because in our hearts we have taqwa. Hijab limits what you can see from my body, or I limit, this is, I love Rasulullah, I want to look like him and this, but it impacts my life and the lives of others. I love Rasulullah. What was the for? If I ask every alim, every student, if I ask you, my dear Q, what was he known for, his identity or for his personality? His identity is not as important as his personality. He was known even before Wahy for being the most truthful, being the trust. He was trustworthy, for being the Sayeda Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her. She offered to marry him after, not to spy on him, but to study him. And the full report came kind. He doesn't raise his voice on elderly people. He's respectful. He will do this, that he doesn't waste his time in loose talk. And then she said, this is the man I've been looking for. She married twice before him. This shows us Khadija, who was not a Muslim, a woman in society, and not only Mexican, from the upper class, she wanted a meaning of manhood. That personality has nothing to do with identity. They dressed up exactly like Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They had turbans, they had beard, but Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam changed people. Here, the identity is good. So our children, when they go to school, we know is, but before we dress them up, we need to load them up here. And this is it's extremely important that we focus on personality. It is personality that, you know, your friends, your environment. Da'wah is done with personality. Shows what you're made of. Shows your beliefs, your attitude. Known for caring for the poor. We're against racism. We treat people with dignity. Against, you know, bigotry and xenophobia. We don't believe these things. How can we impact just by wearing or saying we are Muslim? Children need to see that at home. The very father who dressed up Islamically, he's a lie, who would never cheat, who would never swear. Yeah, these kids, they see learn from parents.
Absolutely.
Lying, all of these things. So about the personality, you hit the right nail, because people ask me, but actually, identity is about you looking good physically. Personality is about making Islam looks good, and this is big.
Wonderfully said.
You. Thank
Wonderfully,
you.
wonderfully said, Imam Slimi. Wonderfully said, and that was such a phenomenal distinction for our listeners and for those who will tune in later on YouTube to understand the difference between identity and personality. And you went at length describing the character of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to the point where Khadija, at the time, she was a non-Muslim, the most wealthiest Muslim in all of Makkah, and part of a very noble family. And she herself, as you rightfully said, she said that this is exactly the type of man I want to marry. This is exactly the type of man I want in my life. And this was even before he was given prophethood. So you so rightfully framed this so beautifully for our listeners, that they should know the distinction between your inner character, that is your personality, and your outward identity, which is very well your appearance. So let's make them one. Let's make them one. Let's bring them together. Now, Imam Slimi, we do have 2 questions from the audience, so I'm going to have producer Kashif read them out loud to you, and then you can answer them, please.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Can you hear me?
Yes, clear.
Yeah. So before I ask the questions that came in from the audience, I'm wondering, some of the folks are saying that your audio is cutting in and out a bit. So I'm wondering if you could maybe check on your end, or if possible, maybe disconnect and reconnect again. Just take a few seconds to do that.
Oh, give me 1 minute. Because I was rushing to come in, I didn't want to be late. So give me 1 minute.
Okay, inshallah. Okay. So yes, we'll just wait for that, because on the stream, it's been a while since we had an online guest. So
yeah. And just to explain to the audience, and also to anyone watching later on YouTube, with any of these live stream platforms, we don't have an operation set up like the BBC or CNN, for that matter, with satellite trucks. We are basically doing this all through a simple mobile platform. So it is dependent on the bandwidth of the signal and other things like that. So we're hopeful that Imam Slimi will come back. He'll have a stronger cell phone signal, or maybe use the masjid Wi-Fi, or whatever the case is. We hope it's not as choppy as it was. So please bear with us. And producer Kashif, just for the audience, the 2 questions, maybe if you could give us a sneak peek, a little bit of a preview on the screen.
Absolutely. So the 2 questions that came in was, so how do we put love for the Deen, Allah, Quran, Prophet in the hearts of our children?
Great question.
And the second one that came in was, how important is it for both parents to be on the same page with parenting methods and issues?
Oh, okay. Another solid question. Very powerful. Okay, so I think Imam Slimi is coming back in. Let's put the spotlight back on him. Great. All right, Imam Slimi, you're back.
Yes. I hope the sound is much better now.
It seems so. Okay, great. So, producer Kashif, if you could just put the spotlight back on Imam Slimi, and then read off the questions.
Absolutely. So the first question that came in, Imam, was, how do we put love for the Deen, Allah, Quran, Prophet, Salah into the hearts of our children?
Okay, so there is one thing extremely important. You can never faith to your children. But I love the question. Give them the love of the faith. But as far as Iman, Allah. So how do I make my son love, Allah? Does see the impact of my love of Allah in my life? Sees me happy in my life, gives me. I am happy the way Allah created me. I am so thankful for the blessings I have. I'm so happy for giving me that child. Allah, and I say, Ya Allah, in front of my child, I thank you for giving me, let's say, or Fatima. Ya Allah, I really thank you for wife, the mother of my children, my wife. Ya Allah. So I am so thankful and loving of Allah. Changes my attitude to appreciate people around me. I appreciate the people. When that is the attitude, the child learns love of Allah makes us better people. That the love of Allah makes us successful. That the love of Allah makes us less. The love of Allah makes us forgiving. That the love of Allah makes us caring. Values are seen because children, they learn by example. It's not what we call information processing. This done subliminally felt. Sometimes doesn't even go through the ear. You see it into your soul. They said that the child learns more than anything after in his life or her life. In the first 7 years, many things, and that's just visually. When a father beats his mother all the time, he swears, she swears back at each other. The mother would wait for the father to go out so she can give them. Husband did not allow them. He learns that father and mother having conflicts. So father says he's a Muslim, or mother says they're Muslim. They don't seem to be true. They learn how to hide things from their parents. They learn to have from their parents. So, and then we come and say, why you don't love Allah? I think that's an order. You should love Allah. No, I have to live it. Part of raising our children is to instill in them to love what is bad. And that's actually the concept of Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy an Munkar. What is good and forbidden what is evil. So when I see something bad on television, I say, yeah, close your eyes. And they know I don't look. They see me and stare at women. I don't stare at people. I'm not a person who's nosy. They get that. It's transferred to them, subhanallah. So transfer these values to the Sahaba. And they were adults. And many of them are children, Sahaba, those who were younger, like Abdullah ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Umar, all these Sahaba they had impact also later, and Aisha radiallahu anha, and many of them. The point is that sister or brother, you're asking, how can I instill love in my child, love Allah, and express it to them and live it. Because love needs life, needs to be manifested. It's not a theory, it's an action. And Allah says it. قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَكُمُ اللَّهُ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Say, if you truly love, then follow me and do what I do. She could not live after Rasulullah sallallahu loved the Prophet sallallahu. He made her love Fatima radiallahu anha Sayyidina Ali, may Allah be pleased be upon them and have peace on them. Look at the relationship.
So Imam Slimi, in terms of the second question now, we're going to have producer Kashif read that one now. Producer Kashif, go ahead.
Absolutely, inshallah. I'll read the question. Before I read the question, I just want to share that if you want to hear more from Imam Slimi, the Sayeda Khadija Center website, as he mentioned, he's also doing a series on parenting and back to school. So you can also, every Friday evening that happens, you can get it from their YouTube channel, the Faith of Life YouTube channel. So, inshallah, you can check that out.
Thank you.
And for more, and I'll add the links in the description also of the YouTube.
Great.
So the second question, and I think after this question we'll wrap it up. So the second question was, how important is it for both parents to be on the same page with parenting methods and issues?
Great question.
Amazing. Okay, let me give you a very typical example, and you would agree with them from our back homes where it's or even if you're born here, you've lived it with your parents, or Middle East or Africa. We have this. This is what our sisters don't realize. My mother and your mother made the same mistake, and maybe my wife and your wife is making. We have something, a disease. We find it home, find it in our masajid, we find it in our communities. Is this thing credit to get credit? So let's say that, may Allah bless him, if I want people to listen to me, so I tell them, don't listen, he's bad. I am good. This even happens in the mother wants to secure the love of her children, says no, she says yes.
Right.
Whatever he says, our mothers sometimes contribute into, and not all of them, don't take me wrong, but this is a psychoanalysis of our situation. I've done counseling for alhamdulillah years, family counseling. Every day we do counseling, and I have learned from the books. I hear the same story when my dad was never there for me. It's only my mother who looks after us. Why the dad is always excluded? When I ask him, I say, mashallah, he says, yes, I have, let's say, engineering degree. Mashallah. So my parents helped me. Okay, mashallah. So your parents both work? No, my after us and this. Oh, mashallah, okay. And how, when you grew up, who was buying you things and this? This is a problem. Okay, so I say, all of this career, you don't want to acknowledge your father for doing something good? Oh, but he was never there. Was he on a cruise or on a trip or having fun with them? Or was he, or where was he? Oh, he was always working. Okay. Did he spend in a bar or go with his friends? Or was he bringing, yes, he was paying the mortgage or paying off the house or rent, whatever. He was giving my mother food or money to buy food. And when he went and spent time, he brought whatever he did. And that's the story of humanity. Sometimes they go hunting for months and they go farming. Look, so the mother should play the role of endearing the children. And when that communication between the husband and wife is good, the endearing the father to them, and the father is endearing the mother to them in front of them, he doesn't disrespect her and shows her respect, good. And the mother, now when they speak about religion, Allah, it makes sense. But if they both are on the same page, daughter, you have to wear hijab, but they keep fighting. They keep putting down opportunity to discredit, to look good, they do it. So some mothers, full love at the expense of the father. And that daughter grows. And remember, this is not 100%, but 99%. Relationship of that girl with the first man of her life, who happened to affect her relationship with her husband and children. And same thing, relationship with the mother, and that we compromise the values of parenting, and we say no. To be just to say Allah is one, to say also we are one, and give up our own, ego for the sake of that oneness.
Very well said. Very well said, Dr. Imam Slimi, that in terms of parenting, to maybe summarize, and you said it very well, that it's not a tug of war. It's not you must listen to me, not listen to your other parent, be it the father or their mother, but really it is to put away any egos, to put them aside and say, what is best for my child? And how does this all relate to our deen, so that you are in sync, as you say. So thank you, Dr. Imam Slimi. Thank you so very much for participating, even though you're coming right off a class. We do thank you for your time. And again, we will contact you. We are very serious that we need your presence in a workshop. We are aiming to put together a conference end of October in conjunction with Masjid Dar al-Iman. That's where our Happy Strong Family Studios are located in Markham, out of the Masjid Dar al-Iman building. So we will contact you and follow up. Even with all the technical difficulties, the lag in the sound and the choppy sound, this has been very, very informative. So we do want to thank you. And again, for anyone who can benefit from Imam Slimi live, do visit the Khadija Center, Sayeda Khadija Center in Mississauga, and do tune in into their YouTube channel as well. So this is Brother Mushtaq signing off for the Happy Strong Family Studio. Tune in again, and we're going to continue every Sunday at 11. That's the weekly time for our live broadcast. Thank you once more.